Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another one of my vlogs, my rambling about Leicas and other noble cameras. Um, the last upload I did was talking about the negatives on this 3A that you see in front of you, and I mentioned that the image was just about in between the lower part of the sprocket holes, and I did say I would return to this when I'd done a bit more research, if you like. And so what I did, by that I mean that I'll just show you the, I don't think you'll see this, but I did point it out before. There's a gap at the bottom of the negative, just there, between the image and the sprocket holes, as one would expect. But at the top of the negative there, the image is just in between those sprocket holes there. And I decided I would see if any of the other Leicas I had were doing the same thing. This wasn't exhaustive research, but what I did, I simply took a strip of negative from my negative files that had been taken with various different Leicas in the collection, and to see whether they were doing the same thing as well. The only reason I'd noticed this was because the 1A that you can see here was a recent purchase, and it had been serviced, and I just wanted to, what I was actually doing was checking that the gap between each frame was the same. In other words, there weren't any variations in gap width, if you like, and they were all spot on. And it's only then that I noticed that the image is just inside the sprocket holes, if you like. So I thought I would check my other Leicas, and I've done that. And in fact, I've checked other cameras as well in the collection, and the 1A does it. Sorry, the 3A does it as well as the 1A. The 3B does it. The 3C stepper does it. The post-war stepper does it. Sorry, the post-war 3C does it, I should say. The 3F does it. Now the 3G doesn't do it, and neither does the M3. But the earlier 3CK I had back in the 80s, I've still got negatives from that camera, that does it. And also the Reed does, which is a Leica copy, that does it. All exactly the same, little bit of image just in between the sprocket holes. The Pentax's types SP1 and 2 do not do it. The Nikon F doesn't do it. The Helena 35X doesn't do it, a camera which I will be coming to at some point in the near future. The Zenit doesn't do it. The Nikon FG doesn't do it either. Interestingly, I think that the Leica 3G and the M3 don't do it. They have the image is within the sprocket holes, if you like. And I just wondered if when the M3 was introduced, of course, that was a totally new design. And maybe the way the camera was put together or manufactured alleviated that. And of course the 3G, which was the last of the screw Leicas, maybe that had, I don't know, I can't say this for sure, but maybe that had the same design modification where that doesn't take place. You know, I'm not saying for a second that this is a fault or anything like that, but it just intrigued me as to why that little bit of image ends up just in between the sprocket holes, or, you know, just sort of kissing them. And interestingly, I was looking at some negatives which looked like they were contact prints taken with a Leica 3A that someone had posted on one of the Facebook vintage camera groups, and these contact strips included the sprocket holes as well. And lo and behold, their 1A was doing exactly the same thing. So the conclusion I've come to is that this is just something that happens and has always been there with vintage Leicas. I wonder if it's to do with just the way the masking for the shutter speed is designed. And what I've done is you just imagine for a second that that's the, I mean, this is literally just a piece of card. Like, I've cut out the roughly the correct masking size, if you like, for a piece of for a 35mm frame. And this negative here is the one I actually showed you last time. So you can see it against the white paper. If you look at the top sprockets there, now this film is upside down, so it's the right way round if it was sitting in the camera. So let's just imagine that the film's sitting like so. Now the gap at the bottom of the frame there, it is exactly how I'd more or less expect it. But the gap at the top, and you can clearly see there how the image is just bleeding into the, or what, for want of a better term, just leaking between those sprocket holes. And I don't think it's because the image, the film's sitting in the wrong plane, because we'd have a different gap at the bottom. I think it's just something that, and if I do that, you can sort of see roughly what I'm probably trying to say. There's where the image would be. And I just wonder, I mean, that hole's not cut up actually all that accurately, but because why I question is the film sitting too low is because if that image is showing through there, then and I'll put the negative actually onto the paper. It will become a little bit clearer there. So if that, this isn't easy to do actually because I can't see what I'm doing, but if the go like that, then there's the image on the negative in alignment with the sort of hole I've cut in the paper. And why I questioned is it sitting too low is because for that image to be between those sprocket holes just slightly, it would have to be this little bit lower. And that was why I questioned, is it too low? The conclusion I've come to is no, it isn't sitting too low, because we'd have a lot more space at the bottom of the negative frame between the sprocket holes, and we haven't. My conclusion, for what it's worth, is simply that the aperture must be cut, you know, just fractionally higher, so that a little bit more, what we're actually doing is we're getting a bonus image. Now that may be right, it may not be right. I welcome your thoughts. There is a point that a comment that was made by MB in that I think he said he has the same sort of problem occasionally, and could it be that the when the film's loaded onto the take-up spool, it's sitting in the wrong position slightly. Well, like MB, when I load filming, and this isn't a good demonstration because we'd obviously have a cut leader, so you wouldn't have all that film. But when I load film in under the spring clip here like so. I always just get the film just touching the bottom flange there. I don't know how well you can see that. And, so the edge of the film is just there. And that is exactly how you're supposed to load it, because I've got this old focal press Leica instruction manual here. And if you look at the illustration there, you can see that where the thumb is, that is a cut leader, because the film would be wider otherwise. And you can see that they are pushing the film under the spring, and the film is just touching the flange at the bottom of the take-up spool. So we're doing everything right. So the only conclusion I've come to is that since virtually every one of my Leicas does exactly the same thing, the conclusion is that this is just some odd phenomenon that happens with most Leicas, at least most of mine, the exceptions being the 3G and the M3, which were both later cameras. I think all that's happening, we're just getting a little bit of, I don't know, bonus image, if you like. Certainly not it's certainly not a full, but I just thought, it was something just worth doing a little bit more research into. So, really, that's basically it. I don't know whether that illustration with the cutaway frames made any difference, but I think you can basically understand what I'm trying to say. As I've come to the conclusion that this simply isn't a fault of any sort. It's just one of those odd things that Leicas do. I certainly like the pre 3G ones, because even the 3F does it as well, which is a fairly late model, if you like. So that's it really. My next upload, I know this is short and sweet, but I just wanted to revisit that this topic again, and now it's settling. The dust has settled and it's out of the way now. My next one I might do is, when I was showing some of the images that I made with the 1A, one or two people made some very, very kind remarks and found them quite interesting. And what I thought I'd do, I've still got prints that I made in the 70s, and I've also got some, and of course these prints were made in the darkroom, but I've also got some scans as well, which again have been printed out just onto, in some cases, just A4 plain paper, just to see what they look like at A4 size. And some of them actually have been printed out on proper photographic paper, or photo paper, if you like. And so I thought next time I would show you a few more of those. I'm only going to hand hold them in front of the phone, because it's easy and it doesn't require any additional time in editing and things like that. And those who've been following me for some time know of old that that's how I do things. And there's another little topic that I sort of wanted to cover, which will tie in with the two really, and that is that I've got some images as well taken with very inexpensive cameras, and some of which are really good. And it shows that given the right conditions, you don't actually need an expensive camera to get a decent image. And so that's probably the topic that I'll cover in the next vlog. So anyway, thanks for your time. Any comments, very, very welcome. I think I've got 2 new subscribers since last time. Thank you for doing that, and I hope you find these ramblings of interest. But I think that's the topic I wanted to cover with the just to expand the comment I made on the previous blog. So Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.